In this video, we're going to be talking about wheels for the NA and the NB Miata. So I was thinning out my collection and it turns out I have way too many sets of wheels for Sally, my V8 swapped Miata, and Two Broke Two Boosted, my turbo Miata, and I need to thin some out, but in the process I wanted to put them all on these cars so you could see what different widths and different offsets look like on these cars to help you be informed and make a proper decision when you're picking wheels for your car. So this car behind me is a 1990 Miata. It does have fiberglass fenders on it, which aren't perfectly representative of stock fenders, but it still has the stock fender liners, and I believe these fenders are very close to stock width in the front, and they're not rolled or anything, so they still have a lip under there. And then in the back, this car doesn't have a roll or anything, so it's still like perfectly factory arches, and it's gonna be a pretty good representative car to test these wheels on. Now, this car is slightly lower than stock height, but it's not super low. It's not on coilovers or anything. It's on an aftermarket shock and spring combo. So this will show you what this stuff looks like on a slightly lowered Miata, not a stanced out Miata, but I think this is where most Miatas probably sit. So I think this is the better car to show you stuff on than my turbo Miata. The different wheels that we're going to be looking at in the video are these, which are 15-inch by 8-inch wide wheels with a 0 offset. This new set that I picked up, which is a 15 by 8 with a plus 25 offset. This stock set of NB 15-inch wheels, which is a 15-inch wheel with a 6-inch width and a plus 40 offset. This set, which is a 15 by 7 plus 35 offset, and this set here, which is a 15 by 7 with a plus 38 offset. In addition to having different wheel widths and offsets, these wheels all have different tire widths, and I'll show you throughout this video what that's going to mean for how your car sits. I'll go over different wheel widths and what tires you could put on the different widths and just what you could expect for fitment. Before I show you all of these wheels on the car, I want to let you know that I have every set that I'm about to show you that's currently available linked down below in the video description. I also have all of the best deals that Tire Rack currently has to offer linked down below so you could save yourself some money. Now let's take a look at these wheels and tire setups. Alright, so these wheels are the 15 by 8s with the 0 offset. Now 8 inches is about 2 inches wider than factory wheels for the NA and the NB Miata. It depends on the factory wheel, but most of them were 6 inches, so these are a 2-inch wider wheel. Now what 0 offset means is from the outer lip to the inner lip, the mounting surface is right in the middle. So if you have a 0 offset wheel, you're going to get wheels with this nice big lip on there, which does look very good, but a 0 offset on these cars means that the wheels sit out quite a bit and you could get a lot of fender rubbing. Now that's why I'm actually taking this set off, because in the back, when I do pulls with this car, it sits right down on the tire and it starts to tear out the outer sidewall, so I don't want it doing that. I'm going to take these off and go to the plus 25s, which will set the wheel in 25 millimeters farther than these, which is about an inch. So if you see 0 offset wheels, just know that you're gonna have to roll your fenders, do a wide body, or run a lot of camber to get them to really nicely fit under an NA. Under an NB, you're still gonna need to do camber or a fender roll and just do something to get those to fit a little bit nicer. So guys, on all 8-inch wide wheels, you could run a 205 50 R15 tire, which will give it quite a bit of stretch, which is what you see on this 0 offset pair that I have on this Miata here. Or you could run a 225 45 R15, which will give you a wider tire with a little bit more support, but you're gonna have more clearance issues on the NA and the NB, so you might need to do a slightly more aggressive rub, slightly more camber, or just a slightly different setup to get these wheels to fit if you go with the 225s. Now let's swap these out and put a stock NB wheel on so you can see the difference between what a stock NB wheel and these aggressive 0 offset wheels looks like. Alright, so here you can see the car on the stock NB 15-inch wheel. So this is a 15 by 6 with a 40 offset. So that means the wheel is set a lot farther in on the car. And this is a 195 55 15 tire, so it's a narrower tire with just a slightly higher profile. And Honestly, I put this wheel on here expecting it to look terrible because it's a stock wheel, but it's actually super fitting for the car, which isn't surprising because factory wheels tend to fit them pretty well, and I find a lot of the time putting a newer factory wheel on an older car usually looks pretty good. So I'm gonna do the back so you can see that, but again, this is what a 15x6 40 offset wheel looks like on this car. All right, so here we are at the back of the car. I actually don't hate these wheels as much as I thought I might have. It really looks like a good OEM Plus option for an NA Miata, and I do like these wheels on NBs too. I had a set of them on one of my NBs, and this is what we're looking like for a gap there. So again, it's not terrible. You could see this wheel sits in just a little bit more than those other wheels. The other ones with the zero offset and wider were poking out to about here. So it is a big difference between there, but for a more stock option, something like this in a 6-inch with the more stock offset at 40, actually looks pretty good. All right, next up we have my Cosi K1 wheels. These are a 15x7 with a plus 38 offset. So the offset's very similar to the last set of wheels, but these are a 7-inch wide wheel versus a 6, which means with almost the same offset, this wheel sits about 1/2 inch more out and 1/2 inch more in at the inner lip. And then this tire is a 205/50/15 Hoosier Racing slick, and these slicks are very wide for a 205 tire. You could see that these are both 205s, 205/50/15s, and this tire stack is about 2 inches lower than the Hoosier slick. So even though they're the same size, those Hoosiers have a taller profile, and some tires might be like that. Here you could see these are the 205s there versus the 195s here, and in the stack of 3 tires, again, it's about a 2 or so inch difference. A 195 versus a 205 is 10 millimeters per tire in width approximately. Not all tires, even if they're technically the same size, are gonna fit exactly the same. So this fitment here is actually pretty nice. This is almost flush with the outside of the fender, but not too bad, so I don't think it would rub, especially if you weren't on a slick, if you were on a slightly narrower tire. This would be an awesome width and an awesome size, in my opinion, for the NA and NB Miata. To test the fitment of my 15x8s in the Plus 25, I got some boards here. Obviously, I don't have tires on this yet, but I'll lower it down and you'll see where the outer edge of the lip is relative to the edge of the car. And these are the wheels I'm gonna be running longer term on either this car or my Turbo Miata, depending on how I like the fits. All right, so the fitment of these wheels is pretty much exactly as I was hoping. You could see that the lip of the wheel is almost exactly flush with the car. It might be kind of hard to see at this angle. I'll get a better shot from the back. But from the top of the car down, you could see that the lip is basically exactly flush. From the rear forward, just a tiny bit of poke, but a lot less than the Plus Zeros, which is exactly what I was looking for. So these should fit pretty sweet. I'll get 205 wide tires on here, and it should fit exactly how I'm hoping, maybe with just a slight roll on this car. All right, so since this is just a wheel, this is a good opportunity to show you that if you're gonna run a wide wheel like a 15x9, with a less aggressive offset, so something like a Plus 35, you might run into clearance issues between the inner lip of the wheel and your suspension components. So this is a 15x8, so it's a little bit narrower, and it's also a Plus 25, so it sits out slightly more, but pay attention to this depending on wheel size and what you have for suspension. All right, so here we are, 205/50/15 street tire on a 15x7 with a 35 offset. So this here is really a nice OEM Plus size. It fits really nice in there. There's still a little bit of a gap between the outside of the fender and the inside of the tire, but this is not a setup that's gonna rub or something that you're gonna have to worry about in almost all cases. So for most people that aren't looking to modify, roll fenders and stuff like that, this is a good option for people that want to do stuff. You could run bigger wheels, wider tires, all of that stuff. But in my opinion, this is a good size. Since I want that fitment to be just a little bit more flush inside of wheel to outside of the fender there, I got those plus 25s, but again, this is pretty nice. All right, guys, so with that, that is every set of wheels and tires that I have for this car, other than the set of 14x6s, which are on my red car, which I'll show you a few clips of now. Those wheels and tires are a 14 195/60, so it's a slightly higher profile, a slightly smaller wheel, and personally, I've really come to like 15s like everything I've showed you in this video, but you could run 14s as well. Also, you could run 16s, but I personally think that that would make for too low profile of a tire, which I don't really like the look or the feel of, so 15 for me is the sweet spot on these cars. I will link some resources down below to where you could buy wheels and tires and to where you could look at other pictures of a ton of Miatas with a ton of different wheel and tire setups so you can just see what they look like and get a feel for what's best for you. Don't forget to like this video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe for more, and I hope you stick around for more content on this channel. Thank you, have a good one.